Melissa, growing up with that type of secret, what made you just decide to release and let go and embrace your past?
It was a series over decades. So now it's the 30-year anniversary of my father's arrest. He was arrested in 95. And it was a process that I eventually got to year after year. It was not overnight for sure. But I also, like you, appreciated Jen's approach to the story because when I watch fictionalized series of serial killers, it is very focused on the serial killer and their headspace and why they did it, not on the people's lives that the criminal affected. So I was very in awe of Jen's choice of telling the story from that perspective.
Everybody has that neighbor, right? That thinks that they're well meaning, but they just nosy.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you had a neighbor like that? Because I got several of them.
That's so funny. Well, you were just saying that you've been in a similar situation where you're trying to have a phone. I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
what?
Well, so I make true crime documentaries, and there's so many times that I'm on the cell phone with an inmate, and my neighbor pops out and tries to start having a conversation with me. I'm like, so that first scene in episode one is actually a real portrayal, not of the conversation I had with my dad, but I've had many conversations where it's very awkward to be in this really bizarre world where you're talking to someone in prison and the neighbor is trying to have a conversation
About recycling or
about
something.
recycling.
I know that was pure comedy. That made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Jennifer, what made you decide to go forward with this story? And when did you connect with Melissa in order to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the podcast just driving to work, as I listened to basically all the true crime podcasts. And I was really taken with Melissa's story, and it just felt like a fresh take on a story that I'd heard before. You know, I'd never heard the perspective of the daughter of a serial killer and, you know, all those like childhood feelings and the complications of loving your dad, but he's got this horrible secret. And I just felt like it would make such an amazing show. And so the first step was meeting Melissa, and you know she met a handful of writers, and the first step was just kind of trying to convince her that I was the right writer and I was the person that would, you know, take care of her and respect her story. And but you know, from the beginning I said that I wanted to fictionalize some aspects of it in order to kind of make it a bigger story about true crime and also protect the privacy of certain real people. So, but yeah, from the beginning, it just kind of felt right, I think. And the collaboration has been pretty great.
Yeah.
I would say so. The collaboration has come off with flying colors, and I really appreciate Jen when I see a woman take on these types of stories because I think it brings a sensibility and a sensitivity to it that no shade toward our men brethren, but
Yes.
I just feel like the sensitivity is different when a woman is behind the helm, and
Yeah.
that's just me. I just feel that way.
Thank
Last but
you.
not Yo, you're very welcome. Last but not least, I've asked everybody about this quote because I love it. When Melissa's character says, every violent act is a rock dropped in water. If you stay silent, the ripples of trauma just keep pulling everything they touch underneath. How do you all feel about that now on the other side of Happy Face?
Well, there's the lady, and forgive me, I can't think of her name. The French woman said she's placing the shame on where the shame belongs to her perpetrator. Her husband was assaulting her while drugging her and assaulting her. It was a big case in France, and it really stuck with me that it's true.
Yeah, it is
We
true.
need to put the shame where the shame belongs.
Yeah.
I think that is a wonderful line because I think it shows again if you do not confront something, if you do not speak up about violence, if you do not speak out against it, there is no clear boundary. You cannot draw where it stops. It will continue. It will continue to get greater. When you think of a ripple, it starts out small, but it continues to grow and it touches and it spreads, whether it's influencing another person. But when you confront it, when you talk about it, when you investigate it, analyze it, and see it for what it is, you can form boundaries around it. You can form how you receive it, and you can also form how you respond to it as well. So I love that line. That's a great line.
Agree. I think it encompasses really the theme of our show, but also the conflict that we have with this true crime machine that we all subscribe to. That's also, again, what makes this show so unique.
That's really the reason for doing this, in fact. I think the reason he did this, it's all wrapped up in sex, that he got twisted around. He doesn't think of himself. He has a very poor opinion of himself, I think, in that way. And he's covering in a way, he's covering his evidence. But Happy Face is about the victims. More than anything else, that was the reason for doing it. And if you like Dateline, 48 Hours, 2020, whatever your choice, you'll love this.
The ripple effect is our show. It's how have these ripples affected the families of the victims, the families of the perpetrators, generationally, two generations later, how's it affecting our kids in the show, played by Ben and Kyla? I think that's exactly what the show is. It's the ripple effect of trauma.
When Melissa says to you, please don't produce me, have you ever done that to somebody or had it done to you and you felt some kind of way?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think we've all felt some kind of manipulation from somebody when they need something from you or they're trying to get something from you. So I definitely know where that sits in my body, and I've definitely felt it on the other hand as well.
But when you were a kid, your father was a fan of Frank Sinatra songs, right?
That's right.
And he entertained y'all by singing and dancing with these Sinatra songs. So having said that, what Sinatra tune would best describe your experience shooting Happy Face?
Oh my God, what Sinatra tune? Well, I think I think the Sinatra tune that would best describe Happy Face as a whole is probably That's Life. I've been a pauper, a poet, a pirate, a saint, a pawn, and a king, because I think Melissa goes through all of those emotions in this show. She feels up, she feels down, over and out, and everything in between. I think that song best describes it, because that is life. You feel up one day, you feel down another, and you just got to keep getting back on your feet.
Look at you. You knew them lyrics too. I am impressed, James.
He sang a lot. We sang a lot in our house.
I can tell. Did you have a chance to talk with Melissa before shooting, or do you prefer not to speak with the person that you're playing beforehand to be able to assess your own judgment of how she should be portrayed?
It depends on the project. It depends on the circumstances. Luckily for us, Melissa was not only a producer on the show, but she was also overwhelmingly generous and gracious with not only her time and her experience, but her expertise in this space and her expertise in her advocacy work with true crime. So she was so open. I also luckily had an incredible script to work with. Jen Casisio wrote an incredible show. So everything was there for me. The script was a great blueprint. I had a podcast, the Happy Face podcast. I had her incredible book. And she also was there for me anytime I needed, any questions answered.